We're getting you the latest updates from the ground. As I mentioned earlier, Russia now is keeping its focus on the capital of Kyiv. And right now, we're reporting that 2 explosions have been heard in Kyiv. Strikes on Kyiv, according to Ukraine, are happening with crews of ballistic missiles and is continuing early this morning. It's about 4:30 in Ukraine and already the strikes have begun. Gaurav, the siege on Kyiv has begun now.
It indeed has, and this appears to be the direct offensive and aim of the Russian president. He said so in as many words. Vladimir Putin talked about not only demilitarizing Ukraine completely, but also removing what he termed was the Nazi regime in this region, the oligarchy in this region, the corrupt oligarchy that he claimed was working on the orders of the West and making Ukraine a playground for the NATO forces, and that is why the offensive is aimed directly at a regime change in Kyiv. There are reports that are now coming in of explosions being heard in and around Kyiv. There are reports that are being heard where people have been asked to move into metro stations because metro stations serve as automatic or natural bunkers in this situation. The Kyiv metro is one of the oldest and the deepest in Europe, going down four flights, 4 levels of escalators. So, people would be safe. As of now, electricity supply, water supply continue, and that is at least heartening to hear that there is water supply and electricity supply. Of course, shortage of water, drinking potable water for people, but information that's coming in from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry after their day-long collation of all the data, and if I may, this data seems to indicate they're giving details about the number of weapons that they have destroyed of the Russians. The Deputy Minister of Defense in Ukraine, Hanna Maliar, has said that 7 aircraft of the Russian Air Force were destroyed, 6 helicopters of Russians were destroyed. Ukrainians are claiming that 30 tanks and 130 armored personal carriers have been destroyed. They claim that Russian losses are 800 on day 1 of the battle. This is information that's coming in from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. And there are several videos that have been put out in the eastern part of the country, Akshita, of Kharkiv and certain other regions where multiple armored personal carriers and tanks were destroyed and some Russian soldiers injured. The Russian media, of course, claims that no aircraft or helicopter has been lost.
Okay, so that is the information that Gaurav has just gotten us about Ukraine confirming and saying at this point that the enemy, which is Russia, they have suffered massive losses as well. 7 aircraft, 6 helicopters, more than 30 tanks, 130 BBM units they've lost, according to Ukraine. And this is the casualties that Russia has suffered in this war. There's been no confirmation from Russia and none expected, Gaurav, on this.
Well, Russia, of course, insisting that they haven't lost aircraft. And we're going by reports that are emerging in TASS, the wire agency that comes from Russia. So they claim no aircraft losses. And Ukraine, of course, has been emphatic. They say that there was a dogfight where Su-27s of the Ukrainian Air Force destroyed 2 Su-30s of the Russian Air Force. Both extremely potent weapon platforms indeed. And they're also claiming that Russia wanted to destroy the entire air defense mechanism of Ukraine. That is in terms of taking out the radars, taking out the surface-to-air missiles, whether shoulder-fired or, tracked and wheeled surface-to-air missiles. The Ukrainian claim is Russia wasn't successful despite targeting 14 airfields across the length and breadth of Ukraine. Majority of those airfields are in the east, some in the west, and that big raid on Ostomel airfield, according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, has failed.
We're also picking up from Kyiv. Gaurav, you've been telling us details about how the siege has begun in Kyiv. Ukrainian air defense has shot down 2 Russian aircraft above the left bank of Kyiv. That's the information we're picking up right now. Our reporter, India Today's Maria Pysarenko, is getting us this information that the Ukrainian air defense has shot down 2 Russian aircraft above the left bank of Kyiv. On your screens, are the latest images coming in of the explosions and blasts that are being reported. This clearly looks like an airstrike. We're going to be getting you details of exactly where this has happened, but this shows you the scale of devastation, the scale that this war has reached. Multiple such explosions being reported in different parts of Ukraine. On your screens right now is one such video, a verified video that we're putting out here on India Today of a blast that's rocked Ukraine.